If looks could kill, then nobody would suspect this young, innocent, sweet-looking boy of being able to take the life of another human being. Unfortunately, you can't and you are not supposed to judge a book by its cover. Appearances can be deceptive. This is the story of how Morgan Huxley was killed by a seemingly young and innocent looking boy. If you are ready for this ride, buckle up and let's go. On the 8th of September 2013, businessman Morgan Huxley was found dead in his hotel. Preliminary investigations were a bit unclear as to what could have caused the murder, and loved ones were outraged, wondering who would have wanted such a loving man dead. Preliminary investigations and autopsy reports would go on to reveal that not only was Morgan stabbed severally, but he had also been defiled sexually, and there were some traces of semen on him. Investigations would ensue to unravel this mystery as to who would want such a loving businessman dead. Days down the line, investigations would point to young Daniel Kelsall as the suspect in this murder. During interrogation, Daniel Kelsall, who looked unassuming and from the face of it might be passed off as not a likely suspect, seemed to turn out so, because he was saying that he didn't even know Morgan Huxley. But competent police work and investigations would dig deep and uncover that indeed Daniel Kelsall knew Morgan Huxley. Investigations would go on further to reveal that on the 8th of September 2013, Daniel Kelsall followed Morgan Huxley home from a night out with his friends in Neutral Bay and eventually would end up stabbing Morgan Huxley 28 times in his bed before going on to sexually assault him. This is brutal and dastardly. Engaging further with a psychologist who had dealt with Daniel Kelsall earlier, it was uncovered that it turned out that the psychologist had Daniel Kelsall confide in the psychologist that he had fantasies of killing somebody. It was diagnosed at the time that it's likely Daniel Kelsall could kill someone, and after what has happened, it's likely he could kill again. Daniel Kelsall, however, was still denying knowledge of Mr. Huxley, but at a point in the investigation when the evidence was overwhelming, Daniel Kelsall would now resort to change his story to say that he had an engagement with Mr. Huxley and that they knew each other, and on the fateful night, Mr. Huxley was complaining of being stressed, and both of them went to his hotel and ended up getting engaged in consensual sex. This story also did not stick because Daniel Kelsall again would go on to change this story and give police another story where he indicated that yes, he was at the hotel of Morgan Huxley with him, but then they were both attacked by an unknown intruder. Police investigations to corroborate these three stories proved that Daniel Kelsall was actually lying to them. Eventually, it was uncovered that Daniel Kelsall followed Morgan Huxley home and ended up stabbing him 28 times in his bed and then proceeding to assault him sexually. Two other men who lived close to Morgan Huxley also came forward to inform the police that they had identified Kelsall as also having uncomfortable encounters with them, and that he had followed them and spooked them in the middle of the night in the weeks before Huxley's death. Now my question, what did they do when he stalked and spooked them? A report of this to the police could have gotten Daniel Kelsall arrested or at least confronted by the authorities, and maybe could have stalled the murder of Morgan Huxley. Eventually, the case would go to trial, and young Daniel Kelsall was sentenced to a minimum of 30 years for stalking, assaulting, and murdering the Sydney businessman Morgan Huxley in cold blood. He stabbed him 28 times whilst Morgan lay in his bed, and then, as though that was not enough, with no disregard for the body of Morgan Huxley, now stained in blood, he went on to sexually assault him. This seems like the twisted fantasies of a psychopathic killer. If looks could kill, looking at Daniel Kelsall's face, nobody would ever suspect that he could be capable of this. But lo and behold, we are advised not to judge a book by its cover because appearances can be deceiving. To this date, Daniel Kelsall is still in jail, and during his trial, he showed no remorse. It turns out Daniel Kelsall is a great fan of chess, and it appears he was trying to play a game of chess with investigators during the course of the investigation into the murder of Morgan Huxley. The family of Morgan Huxley have been greatly devastated and are looking for the strength to move on from this to this date. Tragic as it is our hope on True Crimes Cafe that the justice they got and the strength of whatever religion they believe in should give them some hope to move forward. May Morgan Huxley rest in peace, and we hope his family finds the strength to move on accordingly. For Daniel Kelsall, his family didn't say much because I'm sure they were also devastated. Daniel Kelsall himself seems to still not show any remorse and has been recently reported to have struck a love romantic relationship in prison with another convicted killer. We will see how that ends. Once again, we are advised to stay safe out there, watch your backs, and take all the security and precautionary measures wherever you find yourself. You may never know who is watching. Stay safe out there.